Before your alarm went off this morning, before you opened your eyes, before you checked your phone, your body was already preparing you for the day. It released a surge of hormone into your bloodstream. That hormone raised your blood sugar for quick energy. It nudged your blood pressure upward. It began suppressing your immune system just slightly because fighting off bacteria is a secondary priority when you need to get up and function. It was doing all of this as a favor. That hormone is cortisol, and it has one of the worst reputations in popular health culture. The stress hormone, people call it. Like it's a villain of the story. It is not the villain. But, and this is a serious but, when the system that produces it stops working the way it was designed to, the consequences reach into almost every system in your body. Understanding cortisol correctly might be one of the most useful things you do this year. Look, I'm not going to pretend that science isn't dry sometimes, but here's the truth. You can't master what you don't understand, and the mechanics behind stillness and wellness aren't just textbook fluff. They are the blueprint that separates people who exist from people who actually live. Stick with it. Build that foundation, because what's coming next is where everything clicks into place. The real conversations, the deeper tools, the moments that shift something in you permanently. Don't go anywhere. It's about to get good. Cortisol is a hormone, a chemical messenger produced by two small glands that sit on top of your kidneys called the adrenal glands. It belongs to a class of hormones called glucocorticoids. The gluco part is a clue. It's deeply involved in glucose, your body's primary fuel. Here is cortisol's actual job description stated plainly. It mobilizes energy, converts stored fuel into usable fuel fast. It sharpens focus and alertness in the short term. It temporarily dials down functions that aren't immediately necessary, like digestion, reproduction, immune response, long-term tissue repair. It regulates blood pressure and cardiovascular function, and it follows a natural daily rhythm called the cortisol awakening response, where it peaks sharply in the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking, then gradually declines across the day, reaching its lowest point around midnight when you should be asleep. This rhythm is ancient. It is built into your biology, and it is one of the most important rhythms your body runs on. When cortisol does this job on schedule, peaks in the morning, tapers through the day, bottoms out at night, it is a masterpiece of biological engineering. Now let's talk about what happens when a threat appears. Your brain, specifically the region called hypothalamus, detects something alarming. It sends a signal. That signal travels through a cascade called the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which is essentially a three-step chain of command that ends with the adrenal glands pumping out cortisol fast. This happens in seconds, and what follows is genuinely impressive. Blood sugar spikes, instant fuel available. Heart rate and blood pressure rise. Blood gets to the muscles faster. Inflammation is temporarily suppressed, so nothing slows you down. Memory and focus sharpen. Your brain prioritizes the immediate threat. Non-essential systems pause. Digestion, reproduction, long-term repair, all on hold. This is the stress response, and for what it was designed for, a real physical short-duration threat. It is extraordinary. Your body essentially becomes a different machine for the duration of the emergency. Then the threat passes. Cortisol drops. Everything resumes. the system resets. The key phrase there is the threat passes. Here is the problem. The HPA axis, that chain of command that releases cortisol, cannot distinguish between a lion and a meeting with your manager. It cannot tell the difference between the physical danger and a financial worry, between a genuine emergency and a news cycle, between a real threat and one you're anticipating, a conversation you're dreading, a bill you can't stop thinking about, a relationship that never feels resolved. The brain perceives psychological threat. The HPA axis fires, cortisol releases, and if the threat never fully resolves, if the stress is chronic, low-grade, and ongoing, cortisol never gets the signal to fully come down. Stays elevated, not at crisis level, but above baseline, persistently. And this is where the system that was designed to save you starts to cost you. Because everything cortisol pauses during a stress response, immune function, digestion, tissue repair, reproductive hormones, sleep quality, those things need to resume during recovery. If recovery never fully comes, those paused systems never fully restart. And staying well within research work, over months and years, chronically elevated cortisol is associated with disrupted sleep, impaired immune function, weight gain, particularly around the abdomen, elevated blood pressure, digestive issues, reduced bone density, and cognitive effects on memory and mood. This is not a small list. Here is something the wellness conversation almost never mentions. Cortisol can also go too low after prolonged periods of chronic stress, and I want to flag that the exact mechanisms here are still actively debated in research. So I'm going to describe this conceptually rather than clinically. The HPA axis can become dysregulated in the other direction. Some people after extended burnout find that their cortisol rhythm flattens out. The morning peak that they need for energy and focus blunted. The natural daily curve disrupted. This can show up as crushing fatigue that sleep doesn't fix. Difficulty getting going in the morning. Feeling wired at night when you should be tired. Low motivation. Brain fog. The term adrenal fatigue gets used a lot in wellness spaces for this, and I want to be transparent with you that this specific term is not an accepted medical diagnosis, but mainstream medicine doesn't currently recognize it as a clinical entity. What is recognized is HPA axis dysregulation, a real phenomenon studied in the research literature that describes the system losing its healthy rhythm after prolonged activation. The symptom picture is real. The pop wellness label for it is contested. I'm telling you both things because you deserve the accurate version. The goal is not to eliminate cortisol. You would not survive without it. The goal is to restore the rhythm, the natural curve, peak in the morning, taper through the day, low at night. Here is what the evidence actually supports, and I'll flag where evidence is stronger versus more preliminary. Morning light exposure. Getting natural light into your eyes within the first 30 minutes of waking helps anchor the cortisol awakening response to the right time of day. Andrew Huberman at Stanford has covered the mechanism very extensively. This is real, well-supported biology. The circadian system and the cortisol rhythm are deeply linked. Consistent sleep and wake times. The cortisol curve is partly set by a circadian clock. Irregular sleep timing disrupts it. This is well established. Exercise, timed thoughtfully. Morning or daytime exercise supports healthy cortisol rhythm. Late evening intense exercise can elevate cortisol when it should be declining. The timing matters, not just the exercise. Genuine psychological resolution. This one is harder to operationalize, but unresolved psychological stressors keep HPA axis on low-level alert. Therapy, genuine problem solving, and not just managing stress, but actually reducing stressors where possible. The system needs the threat to actually resolve. Reducing caffeine dependency, particularly late in the day. Caffeine stimulates cortisol release. Morning coffee aligns with the natural peak. That's actually fine. Afternoon caffeine extends the elevated state into hours when cortisol should be declining. Ashwagandha. I'll mention it because it's everywhere and the research is more credible than most supplements. There are genuine randomized controlled trials showing reductions in cortisol and perceived stress. I'm not overstating this. The evidence is preliminary and the effect sizes are modest, but it's not nothing. Verify current research yourself before using it. Supplement science moves fast. Cortisol is not trying to destroy you. It never was. It woke you up this morning. It sharpened your focus during the hard moments. It has been mobilizing your energy every single day of your life, automatically, without being asked. It is one of the most ancient essential chemicals your body produces. The problem was never cortisol. The problem is a world that keeps pulling the alarm and never quite letting it reset. Your body was built for stress, real stress, short, intense, followed by genuine recovery. It was not built for low hum of never-ending pressure with nowhere to land. Give the system time to reset, not as a reward when everything is finished, as a requirement for the system to keep working at all. Cortisol is trying to help you. Meet it halfway. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hit like, subscribe, and stay close. This channel is built for people who are done settling and ready to actually live.